Josh, how's it going?
Hello, good to see you.
I love the hat. I love it. It's
Yeah.
so good.
You know, it's funny. I started watching the stream a couple hours ago, and the first 3 people had Christmas hats, so I had to run out to the store and
No
buy
way.
one.
Are you serious?
I mean, I live a block from a dollar store, so it wasn't great. It has
Okay.
jingle bells too. I don't know if you can hear that.
It's really impressive. It's really
Yeah.
That's amazing. Josh, thank you. Thank you for that huge donation. And also thank you for going to the dollar store for our stream. I really appreciate it. Thank you for bringing a little bit
Oh,
of
it's my
festiveness.
pleasure. And by the way,
Yeah.
I think people should know that, like, you don't have like a team doing this. Like, there was no one like in the waiting room helping me get set up. Like, it's remarkable to me that you're orchestrating this whole thing with all of us coming by.
Well, thank you. I mean, the fact that everyone's following directions perfectly definitely helps. So I appreciate that. I did have a huge team with the setup of the overlay. Like, Josh, are you seeing like the little turtle swimming around? And that is a seahorse. Get it? A seahorse that our friend Life modeled and animated. Like as a Blender fan, you would love to chat and see
super cool.
his work. It's incredible. We've got an outro planned and everything. It's huge shout out to Ryan, Ben, Mac, Life, all these people in the Front End Horse Discord who really pulled together to help out with this. Really appreciate you all. And I know I'm forgetting people. I'm sorry, but Josh, thank you for those kind words. But yeah, it is great to have you on. I love the tree in the background. I love the hat.
Yeah, I'm trying to get out of the way so we can focus on it for a second.
It's really solid. Yeah, I'll do the same. Here we go. We'll
I love the N64 controllers. That's
I got them out. Like I got the N64 out to show my coworkers that I still have all like my old games. Like I have Perfect Dark, I have GoldenEye, I have this, and then I was like, oh wait, I have green and red controllers.
Yeah,
Let's
they're
toss them
even
on.
like
Why
holiday
not?
colors.
Yeah, exactly. It's perfect. So what do you want to show us, ma'am?
Yeah, let me share my screen and we can get going with that. Hopefully this is the right button to press and this is the right screen to share. Yes,
Oh
yes,
no,
yes.
not that
Hopefully.
button. Yeah, you're good. That's how we lose the stream. Here we go. So I am going to share.
Very slick transition. I'm going to remove my jingly hat.
That's Life again. That's him. He so many cool things.
Okay. So this is my blog, right? I have my little 3D mascot, and behind my 3D mascot, I have this line art that kind of follows your cursor. And I've gotten a bunch of questions about how this is built. My very ambitious goal for the next 16 minutes now is to show you at least like something similar to this. And we may not get all the way there, but hopefully it will at least be valuable. In my practice runs, I realize that it does take, there's like a lot of little things in here that I don't want to assume too much experience, but this is where we're starting, right? No fancy effects. We have this kind of black rectangle, which I just added so we can see the kind of confines of this thing. And now let me make this slightly less enormous. It is built with React, and I'm using some React here, but we're not going to talk about the React side. Essentially, the important thing to note is I have this generative arc component. I know that I want to have 8 rows and 16 columns, right? That's in terms of like, I have 16 lines this way and 8 lines this way. I'm giving it a fixed size of 200 by 400. And now this part here, this is the magic that I'm going to completely hand wave over. Essentially, this gives me an automatically updating position for where my mouse is. So based on the top left corner being 0, 0, it's whenever I move the mouse. Actually, I can just show you that.
Okay.
I'll add a console log mouse position. And then on my local host, as I move around, right, if we keep our eye on the console, it just tells me where the mouse is. So I'm not doing like a request animation frame loop. I'm just treating the mouse position as the state, and then everything redraws whenever the state changes. Cool. So that's one piece of useful information. I also have this use canvas hook, which sets up the canvas. There's like weird stuff you have to do where if you're on a Retina display, you have to crank up the actual size because there's twice as many pixels. So this like does all of that for me.
Okay.
The interesting bit is this draw function, right? This is where all of the stuff is going to happen, where every time this component renders, I'm going to call this draw function and give it all the information I have in the world. And then finally, I just render the actual canvas.
Cool.
In this draw function, right now, I'm just clearing it so that we have a nice blank slate on every frame. And I have stuff written here. Like this is where we're going to do some stuff. So let's start a little bit with like a modest goal of just drawing like a circle somewhere over here. Okay. So it would be nice in Canvas if there was like a context.circle method, but there isn't. Instead, we have arc. And arc is, it's actually a little bit better because you can draw like part of a circle. Like you can say, I want like a 90-degree slice of a circle.
Okay.
We need to give it the X position. So the center position in the X axis. So let's just say 50. We need the Y position. Well, let's say 25. We need a radius. Let's say 50. And then I need the actual angles, right? So you might think going from 0 to 360 degrees would work, but nothing can be so simple. It's in radians rather than degrees. So we have to do 2 times math.pi. Oh, and I actually have to dot fill, right? So we've like traced the path here. By the way, this begin path and close path, I don't actually know if it's necessary when you're just doing a single thing like this, but it's muscle memory for me at this point. And when I do that, I have a circle kind of drawn in the top corner. I should say, like the reason it was huge there for a second, there's like a bug with my code where when it hot reloads, it gets twice as big. And that happens like every time. It's only in development because there is no hot reloading in production. So I haven't dedicated the time to figuring it out. But you'll notice whenever I save, like this circle just gets, I guess I have to change something.
That's funny.
The circle just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Well, when it wants to, maybe not on demand. But okay, so that's all well and good, but I don't want to do this once, right? I have these number of rows and number of calls, and I want to go through and add a circle in every position. So let's add a for loop. And it's common in like things I've seen where you use like I for this, like you'll say I equals 0. I don't like I, so I'm going to say, let's do row index. While row index is less than num rows, row index plus plus. Right, so I want to go from 0 to 8, or actually 0 to 7 inclusively for every row. And then I'm going to do exactly the same thing, but for columns. So change row index to call index and change this to num calls.
Cool.
Okay. So if I was to just move this stuff up in here now, and instead of saying like exactly at 50 pixels from the left edge and 25 from the top, I plug in these values, right? So call index for X and row index for Y. And then I refresh. You'll notice I have this kind of like rounded rectangle. And it's because I'm iterating through all the rows. So I'm like drawing a circle at X is 0 and X is 1 and X is 2, right? I'm drawing all these circles that are like almost perfectly stacked. They all move over by 1 pixel. And this is one of these like fundamental ideas that I don't know why I don't see more people talking about because it's so useful in situations like this. I know that I have this number that goes from 0 to 8 or from 0 to 16. And I want to transpose it from this scale to another scale. This is called linear interpolation. I'm going to use a function that I have called normalize. Any questions on this so far? But I know I'm just like monologuing here.
I'm good. And nope, it's clear for me. And if Chad has any questions, they can ask afterwards because unfortunately, yeah, we don't have that time. But this is more of a chance to like get people interested and see like, oh, I could do that with Canvas and that kind of thing. So this is great.
Cool. That is kind of the thing I'm hoping for, right? Because it is like we're covering a lot of stuff here in a very small amount of time. So it's not really meant as like a tutorial, more as like just like here's a quick overview and here's something you can do with it.
If what you're seeing interests you, you can go check it out, kind of thing, right? It's a sampler platter.
Totally.
Yeah.
So I have this normalize function. I have this utilities where I have all these functions defined. And you know, it's math stuff. Essentially what it does is it takes a number, in this case, call index. And this number currently goes from 0 to num calls, right? From 0 to 16. And I want to transpose it so that it goes from 0 to width. So if it's 0 out of 16, it'll go to 0 out of 200. If it's 8 out of 16, it'll go to 100 out of 200, right? It's 50% of the way through this new range that I'm defining from 0 to width. And I'm going to do the same thing for my rows. Row index, num rows, and height. And then when I change this to X and this to Y, I'm also going to pick like a smaller number for radius because 50 is kind of big. And what we see is I have a grid of dots. There is this kind of issue where it starts literally in the top left corner. So the very first row and column of dots are being trimmed. And what I would have to do to fix this is push them over by half the width of a column and row. And I'm too lazy to do that. I don't have the patience for that right now.
All good.
So I'm just going to like kind of arbitrarily add a number. just because, you know, trying to move quickly
Yeah,
here. It's
there's
not
that hot
perfect.
reload thing. That's so funny.
It always is a little bit alarming when I forget that it does that, and
Yeah,
it
like,
just
oh
makes me
no.
think I've done something terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, so I have my grid of dots, and that's an improvement, right? I have a grid, that's cool, but they're not doing anything. So let's try to figure out how I can use the mouse position to affect these dots. And there's a couple things that are working to my advantage, right? The first is that I have the mouse position, the distance from the top left corner of the screen. I also, and I didn't talk about this, but I have the position of the canvas. That's represented here by this canvas box, right? It's a bounding box. So it'll tell me this box is this width and this height, and it is a given number of pixels from the left edge of the screen and a given number of pixels from the top. And so I have this Microsoft Paint in browser. I didn't know that it was Grinch themed. This is kind of a new thing, but let's take advantage of it. I also like that there's this hover animation that the Grinch becomes all wrinkly and smiley.
This is amazing. I don't think I've ever seen this.
It even, like, I made earlier just before, I don't think you'll be able to hear this, but when you go to File New, it does the...
I heard it.
Like, did you hear that?
Oh my goodness, my childhood just came back. So many hours
it
wasted.
Very cool. Okay, so this is our viewport, right? This is where the our canvas is, and then, you know, I have my like swoopy rainbow, or not rainbow, but slopes over there. So what I want to do, let's use colors, is let's say that my mouse is kind of over here. I want to get the distance inside this box. So I can figure out that if my mouse is like this distance from the left edge of the screen and this distance from the top, and what other color have I not used? I know where the canvas's distance is, right? Because I know where the canvas is. I can subtract this smaller number from this larger number, and that'll give me the actual distance of the cursor within this canvas. So let's do that. I'm going to say const relative mouse position. X is going to be equal to mouse position dot x. Oh, I actually called it with all the words. Minus canvas box dot left. I'm going to do the same thing for the Y using top. Let's see if I actually did that right, because I'm only like maybe 50% confident that I did. Mouse position. Oh, that's my production site. All right, so let's make this a bit smaller too. Yeah, that seems right.
Yeah.
So when I'm right in the top corner, it's 0, 0. I get into the negative numbers when I'm over here. But the important thing now is that my mouse goes from 0 over here to 400 over here, and from 0 to 200 in the Y direction. So I can use that information now, which is much more helpful than just where the mouse is anywhere in the viewport. So let's start as maybe like a stepping stone to what I actually want to do, of making the radius depend on where the mouse is, which is kind of a weird idea, and honestly not one that makes a lot of sense, but might be interesting.
Yeah.
Let's say
I think the effect's gonna be cool.
Radius. So let's say const radius. Let's say that the mouse position goes from 0 to 400, right? That's the width of our box. Actually, I can just say width.
Cool.
And I'm going to normalize it from 1. So when the mouse is in the top or in the left corner of our box, the left edge, radius is going to be 1. And the more to the right I move, it's going to go up until it becomes 30. So we'll see if this is interesting.
I get what you're saying now. Okay.
Let's see what happens.
When you said like it doesn't make much sense, I'm like, I don't know, I think that's pretty cool. I misunderstood. So it's they all should grow as you move to the right, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and they aren't. I'm not getting an error, which I actually because I haven't actually specified the value. Mouse position dot x is what and it actually is position. Yeah, because I need like this is the value I care about. Currently, it goes from 0 to width, and now I want to transpose it to go from 1 to 30.
Cool.
And when I do that, I get the error I expected. No, I just get a solid wall of black.
Huh.
The error I expected is that radius can be negative right now, right? Because if my mouse position is over here, hold on.
Okay.
Aha.
It's just getting real big. It's getting real chunky.
So you'll notice, like, as I move in the top left corner, it's doing the thing that I wanted it to.
Right.
And the reason for that is that I'm using mouse position.x instead of the new, like, fancy relative mouse position.x.
Cool.
I had actually intended. And now we get the error that I have been expecting, which is that my mouse position right now can be negative, because if my mouse is over here, right, like somewhere over here, I'm negative 200 pixels from the top left or from the left edge of this box. So what I have to do is I have to clamp it so that it never goes negative. So I'm going to say radius is equal to clamp, radius from 0 to width. And clamp is my own little function as well. I just uses math.max and math.min to kind of clamp both edges.
Nice.
And when I do that, and I come back over to my site, now it does the kind of wild thing I had been hoping for. Cool. Cool. We still have 5 minutes, right?
Yes.
Ish.
3.5.
3 minutes? Okay. I think we can cover.
Yes.
I think let's be optimistic. So now my next challenge, right? I have a box of my dots. I have my cursor, which is over here. And I'm going to iterate through every dot. And let's just say that I'm working on this dot and then also this dot. The closer they are, actually, hold on. That's not a good example. This dot. The closer they are to the cursor, the larger I want the dot to be. Actually, that's still not a good example. Maybe over here. And so what I have to do essentially is figure out what is this distance, right? This diagonal distance between them. Because the larger that diagonal distance is from any of the dots, let's pretend that I had like one way over here. This is going to be really far away. I need that distance. And this is where trigonometry, or not even really trigonometry, I guess Pythagoras' theorem comes into play. I guess it's trigonometry because it's triangles. I can figure out this distance, right? The horizontal distance, because I know where the dot is and I know where the mouse position is. And I can figure out where this, it's the exact same problem just on the other axis, where mouse position dot y and this dot's y position, those two numbers are going to be, I can figure it out. And then this number squared plus this number squared is equal to this number squared, right? A squared plus b squared equals c squared.
Right.
So let's apply that. It always makes me happy when I can apply my grade 9 math in the work that I do.
And that was always the best one too. That was always my favorite one because it's like relatively straightforward and everything else.
You don't have to deal with cos and sine and like that. That stuff is fun too. But
yes, but
this one just does the
Pythagorean theorem is just kind of a classic.
Okay, so what I need is const delta x is equal to x minus relative mouse position, right? Because x I defined over here, we're iterating through every single dot. So x updates, 8 times 16 times to be whatever the current dot is. I do want to get the absolute value because I don't care if it's to the left or to the right, right? Like I don't need to know what direction it is. I just need to know the actual distance. So I'm going to say math.absolute. I'm going to do the same thing for y. And then distance is going to be math.square root delta x to the power of 2 plus delta y to the power of 2. Okay, so with distance now, that'll give me the distance. And now I need to use that in my normalize, right? This normalize that I had over here. And I don't think I need the clamp. Let's try it without the clamp. So now, actually, I do need it with the clamp, because I don't want it to grow forever. Distance is now the number I'm normalizing. Okay. And let's say that we care about distances from 0 to, 100 pixels. And again, I want the circles to be 1 to 30. So let's try that and see what we get. Well, it's the opposite of what I want.
That's a cool effect, though.
So I can flip the numbers, right? Instead of mapping it to go from 0, when it's at 0, when I'm the distance is 0, I'm right next to the dot. I want it to be really big. And then once it becomes 100 pixels away or further, I want it to shrink to be really small. And then that's the effect I'm after.
Nice. So now we just need to change the max and min of this, right?
Yeah, I mean, maybe we don't want it to be like that big, so maybe do like 10 instead of.
Not trying to give you notes on how to make your effect. Now you need to make it blue, right?
And actually, I wish we had a bit more time because it's fun to play with this. Like I can change the range I care about, right? If I make it so I only care about 20, then I have this really kind of tight effect. Whereas if I make it 200, I have this much kind of larger effect. So there's all kinds of actually, I wish we could pull up Chris's knobs thing so we could play with the actual. The values in real time without having to jump to the code. But
had you seen that before? I'd never seen that.
No, I mean, I had seen dat.gui all the years ago.
I've seen dat.gui everywhere, but I've never seen knobs. It seems really nice, so I'm excited to play with that.
It's really cool,
Yeah, Josh, this was great. Thank you so much. As a bunch of people in the chat said, they love your site. Your blog is another one. I think I've mentioned a few great blogs. Well, and Dave Rupert kicked us off today by kind of like going through and saying how like everyone has a great blog. Yours is absolutely up there as just a very well made blog, but also great content and everything. So thank you for showing us what a lot of people have played with, and just kind of like it's just one of those things where you go wee and you just play with for like 10 minutes, and it's just a lot of fun. But man, happy holidays. Thank you so much for coming on. I want to come back to this. My buttons aren't great, but thank you so much for coming back on. And yeah, I guess we'll have to, I mean, I'm sorry we ran out of time. I guess I'll have to have you back on to show us the whole thing. Oh no. Oh, shucks.
Totally.
Yeah, but thank you so much. Happy holidays, man. And thank you for the donation. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. You know, it's a good cause. So it's certainly, we want to make sure that our seas stay nice and clean.
That's the goal for sure. Yeah. So thank you so much. Hope you have a great holiday, man. Take care.
Thanks for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
Awesome.
Bye,
have a good one. Bye.